Hi everyone, welcome to Freakish Tales channel. Our aim is to delivering most haunted stories, so just subscribe our channel and join our community. Story number 1 here, it begins. My console came with one game pre-installed. I wish I'd never played it. If you're watching this, I need you to understand something. This is not a story. I'm not chasing attention. I don't need sympathy. I need someone to believe me, because I think I've made a mistake that can't be undone. You already know the console. Everyone's been losing their minds trying to get it, camping outside stores, clawing each other apart on marketplaces online. I got mine for cheap from a guy who looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Skin flaking around his eyes, kept glancing behind me while we talked. He handed me the box and whispered, "It doesn't let go." I laughed it off. Thought he was tweaking, but I should have run. It started as soon as I plugged it in. The room dimmed, not the lights, the air itself. Like something thick and invisible had filled the space. There was one game pre-installed, no name, just a glitched icon, a kneeling figure under a black sun. The moment I launched it, the screen stuttered, like the console itself winced. Day 1, quest accepted. No title screen, no options, just me, dropped into a crumbling, uncanny world. But what disturbed me most wasn't the environment. It was the tone. The silence wasn't silence. It had weight, like breath being held, like something waiting. My girlfriend wasn't impressed. "You're 38, she said. "Why are you spending every night glued to that thing like a teenager?" She said I stopped listening, that I talked in my sleep, that I'd call out names she didn't recognize. She begged me to take a night off. Just one night not playing. I tried. I swear I did. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. About the whispering trees, the endless corridors, the way the shadowed NPCs watched me without moving. I told myself it was just immersion, that it was impressive design, but the game knew things about me. In one level, I found an abandoned cabin, exactly like the one my family stayed in on holiday when I was 9. Right down to the broken lamp by the window. That lamp shattered during a thunderstorm when I was a kid. There's no way the game could have known that. Day 8. The outside begins. I was walking through a burned forest in-game when I found a note carved into a tree. "Get off the tram. He's watching." That same afternoon, I took the tram into the city. That's when I saw him, slouched in the back, 7 feet tall if he stood, skin like wax paper, wearing a mailbag that twitched on its own. The whispering postman. He turned his head, slow and jerky, like a doll's head forced by strings, and whispered, not to me, but to the window, "Level up." I nearly screamed. They started following me, the ones from the game. The plague widow, veiled and weeping behind the pharmacy counter. The skinless dog growling from behind a child's swing set at the park. The hollow boy sitting outside my flat, humming the game's loading screen music. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating. I tried deleting the game, resetting the console. It wouldn't let me. Every time I turned it off, it turned back on. The game auto-launched, and each time, next level unlocked. My girlfriend left last week. She said I mumbled in my sleep, called her the witness, told her she'd be left behind. She said my eyes looked hollow. She said she saw my reflection smiling when I wasn't. Last night was day 13, the breach. The level started in my own apartment, identical, same posters, same burn mark on the carpet from when I dropped a joint. I walked through it in-game. Every drawer, every photo, every item, exactly where it should be. But it wasn't empty. There were voices behind the walls. They hissed in unison. "We are the unseen. You brought us here." When I quit the game, the console didn't go dark. It displayed my real face, not my character. My face, staring, smiling, not blinking. I unplugged the console, hid it in a box, threw it in the closet. It still turned on. I'm writing this now from my bedroom. It's nearly 4 a.m. Something just slid down my chimney. I heard it, the scrape of bone on brick, the crack of something folding itself wrong to fit through. Heavy footsteps. And then a voice I heard in-game 2 nights ago. "We're nearly finished, host. One more level to go." I ran to my room and locked the door. I can hear them in the hallway. The plague widow is crying. The skinless dog is sniffing. The hollow boy is dragging something heavy down the hall and giggling, whispering, "You brought us through." They're scratching the walls now, not knocking, scratching. One of them is breathing under the door frame. The door's not real, you know. There's a hand coming through the gap, thin, tapered, wrong. I don't know what happens if I play the final level. I don't know what happens if I don't. Please, please, if you find one of these consoles, don't plug it in. Don't turn it on. Don't play the game. Because once you do, the game will play you. Story number 2. Here it begins. I was 12 when my godfather offered me money to clean his basement. I should have said no. I've never shared this before publicly, but I need to. Because even as an adult, I still carry fear. Not of all white people, but especially ones who act like a man I knew as a child. My godfather, Lee. I was born in Georgia. My mother was 16, my father 36. Legal, but not right. She left him when I was 1 because he was abusive. He never hit me, but he was emotionally cold and dishonest. He never told me he loved me, but he did love telling stories. One story he repeated often was how he met my godfather, Lee, at a gas station in the early 1980s. Lee, a white man, called him a racial slur. Later that night, my dad saved him from being robbed at gunpoint. From that moment on, Lee said my dad was different and became his friend. Eventually, business partner. My dad even asked Lee to be my godfather. When I was 12, I finally got to visit my dad for the summer. One night, Lee offered me cash to clean his basement. I said yes. But the moment I walked down there, I knew something was wrong. My skin prickled. The air felt thick. At the bottom of the stairs was a mannequin in full KKK robes. The walls were covered in Confederate flags, nooses, lynching memorabilia, and white power signs. I froze. Lee appeared out of nowhere and said, smiling, "That room's off limits. Don't tell your daddy. He knows, but it don't need to be remembered." I left immediately. Told my dad I was sick and wanted to go home early. He didn't ask questions, just drove me back. Years later, I brought it up. My dad just said, "Sometimes a man's got ghosts. As long as they don't haunt you, you let him be. But they do haunt me. I still get nervous around certain white men. The ones who smile too fast, who say things like, 'You're not like the others,' who carry themselves the way Lee did, fake calm, polite, but full of something darker. And I'll be honest, this experience damaged my trust in men overall, including black men. Because my own father handed me to a man he knew kept hate in his basement, then told me to be quiet about it. I don't hate all white people, and I don't hate all men. But fear, it learned its shape early, and it hasn't left me. It has affected my everyday life and how I view white people in general. How do I reverse this? I'm 36 and terrified of white people. I can't get those images out my head. Story number 3 here, it begins. Pretty sure someone tried to rob, kill me. I live in a communal area with a large back garden. In a couple of days, I'm planning a camping trip, and I recently bought a new tent for it. I wanted to make sure everything was in working order, so I decided to set it up in the garden for a quick test run. It was pretty late when I started, around 11:30 p.m. Fiddling with the tent took longer than expected, but eventually I got it all set up and was ready to take it down again and head inside. That's when I saw them. Just as I turned to leave, there was a figure in all black, standing completely still, watching me. They said nothing, just stood there, motionless, blocking the path I needed to take to get home. I started walking toward them slowly, unsure if I should say something. Before I could make up my mind, the figure turned and began pacing away from me. Not running, just calmly walking off like they'd been waiting for me to notice them. I didn't call after them. I didn't speed up. I just kept walking, a chill growing in my spine. The figure turned the same corner I needed to take to reach my front door. But when I rounded the bend, nothing. They were gone. No sound, no sign of anyone. Just empty space. I got inside quickly, locked the door behind me, and stood there thinking about what I'd just seen. I don't know if it was someone waiting for me to fall asleep out there, to rob me or worse, or if it was something else entirely. Something not quite human. Either way, the excitement I had for this camping trip has taken a hit. It's hard to look forward to sleeping in a tent after that. Story number 4 here, it begins. This happened years ago, but still gives me chills when I think about it or tell it. My pawpaw Doug died in January of '98, and my little brother was born in December of '98. They've never known each other. My family lived on some land owned by Pawpaw. In fact, all his children did. 3 houses side by side, walking distance to each other. Starting with our house, it was his middle child, my dad, in a newly built modular home, the middle house where my Pawpaw and Nana lived and raised their children, given later to his youngest daughter and her family. The last house is where his oldest daughter lived with her family. We were all somewhat tight-knit growing up. Around the summer of '99, during a family BBQ and bonfire, ghost stories started being told for us kids. I hear my mom say to my aunts that she needed to speak with them during this time. They go inside to get more marshmallows, and I followed, saying I had to use the bathroom. I didn't. I was just nosy, LOL. I sit in there with the door cracked, and I heard my mom asking them questions about my pawpaw, like what kind of cologne he wore, and did he have a distinct stance and posture, and would he have liked my little brother if they had met? They answered her questions, and I could tell something was off with my mom afterwards. A few days later, on the way home from an outing with Mom, I asked her why she was questioning my aunts over the weekend. Her answer legit scared me a kid, but also kick-started my love of the paranormal. She said that at least once a week, the toilet in my parents' bathroom would flush on its own, and when she would go check, obviously no one is there, but she'd smell cigarette smoke and manly cologne. My pawpaw Doug died of lung cancer from smoking. The lights would even flip on and off by themselves in the bathroom. She proceeds to tell me that occasionally she'd wake up, and my little brother would be in his crib laughing, and she'd see this shadow figure standing and hunched over his crib. It never scared her. She said it was almost a calming presence. Fast forward a couple years later, and my mom is driving me and my siblings to the park for a family fun day. On the way there, off to the right is this massive cemetery where my pawpaw is buried. As we are passing by it, my little brother, who is in the back seat, starts laughing and waving towards the cemetery. I asked him what he is doing, and his reply stopped us all in the middle of our convos. Keep in mind, he never once met our grandfather or even knew his name other than Pawpaw. He said that's where Pawpaw Doug sleeps. We asked him, "How do you know that? And how did you know his name?" And my brother replies, "Because he would play with me in my crib when I was a baby. He told me his name was Doug, like my daddy and my brother. Now my dad goes by DC and I go by my nickname Trey. Not once during this time did my brother know ever our real name. He only knew Daddy and Trey." Talk about chills running down my spine. Every time we passed that cemetery, my brother would smile and wave and say, "Hey, Pawpaw Doug." Every word of this is totally true. It's one of many paranormal things I have experienced. I have plenty of stories I can share, and I probably will at some point. Story number 5 here, it's begins. I just recently moved to Oklahoma. Recently, I keep having very uncomfortable experiences outside, especially in the evening or nighttime. It started when I went to go put laundry in the wash one day. We have a laundry room attached to our building, and it was broad daylight, so I wasn't exactly feeling nervous about anything. I got about 20 feet from the walkway alley way to the washroom, and I smelled the worst rotting animal smell I've ever smelled in my life. Not only that, as soon as I smelled it, I got the strongest flight or fight reaction I've ever felt. I ran back to my unit, locked the door, and had a small anxiety attack. I waited about 15 to 20 minutes before going back out, and when I did, there was no smell, and I felt normal. Fast forward about a week later, my husband and I were outside at about 1 a.m., smoking a cigarette when we heard what sounded like a dying dog. We live right off of a major interstate, so we assumed an animal must have been hit. We started walking towards the direction of this noise, sort of a wheezing whine, a terribly sad noise, when we got to the edge of our parking lot. As we got onto the pavement, the wheezing dog noise turned into what sounded like an owl hooting. I understand owls make strange noises. I was raised in Texas. I've heard many. But this was not an owl. The longer we listened to it, the more it sounded like a person trying to mimic an owl. My husband called out, "Hey, is someone there?" pretty loudly, and just silence was the response. We stood quiet a few moments before the owl noise completely stopped, and the sound of an unnatural laugh echoed from the trees. The only way I can describe this noise is it was like when a deaf person laughs, like they can't hear how they sound, so it just kinda sounds a bit off. I don't mean to sound rude at all, truly. That's just the only way I know how to describe it. It felt like ice water was in my veins as soon as I heard it. Both of us just felt extreme fear in that moment and ran back to the house. I could explain off all of these things if I hadn't seen what I had seen next. A few days later, I was outside smoking around 7 p.m., and I saw two men walking on the side of the street where I had heard the noise a few nights prior. They walked past the trees a little ways, but then stopped. It was dusk, so light was low. One of them turned on their phone light and shined it into the trees before jumping back. Both men took off at a full sprint away from the tree line. I have no idea what they saw. I didn't hear anything, but there was pure fear there. The most frustrating part was I was looking right at them and saw absolutely nothing. Fast forward about a week later, I get a text while I'm at work from my husband telling me he heard our daughter talking and laughing in the field across the street. He was 100% sure it was her until he realized she was inside in her room. He said it sounded just like her. Fast forward again a few days later. I found dried blood on my door jamb, as well as scratches near my doorknob, and more dried blood at the bottom of my door. My neighbor had their internet cables cut and told me that someone had tried to open their door the night it happened and then slammed their body against the door trying to break in. My neighbor said he forced himself out the door ready to confront whoever was there. But there was no one. We constantly hear things on the roof, things in the alley behind our place. Our dog will run to the door at random hours and sniff and growl like someone is there. I have probably made a mistake by calling out to this thing, whistling at night, trying to antagonize it because I desperately want a recording. I have one recording of its noises. It sounds like an owl, but towards the end there's this low, inexplicable moan that comes from the same place the owl sounds are coming from. It's hard to hear and ends very abruptly. I don't feel like this is good enough. No one believes me, but something is out there. It knows I know it. I feel it watching me. If I curse at it or try and lure it out, it goes completely silent or does that horrible laugh. I can never seem to catch the laugh or any of the noises. As soon as I hit record, it usually stops. I don't know how to explain this, but I know I'm not crazy. Please, if someone can help me, I really want to know what this thing is. I have pictures of the blood on my door, the scratches, and the video of the owl sounds moan. I just feel like no one will take this seriously. It always smells like a corpse when it's around. That's the biggest sign something isn't right. I brought it up to one of my native co-workers and he said, "Leave it be. Wash the blood from your door and stop trying to talk to it." He wouldn't tell me anything else. I don't know if this is a Wendigo, a skinwalker, or something else entirely, but I have never felt such dread and fear as I do when I hear or smell it out there. Please, if someone can help me, I really want to know what this thing is. I have pictures of the blood on my door, the scratches, and the video of the owl sounds moan. I just feel like no one will take this seriously. It always smells like a corpse when it's around. That's the biggest sign something isn't right. I brought it up to one of my native co-workers and he said, "Leave it be. Wash the blood from your door and stop trying to talk to it." He wouldn't tell me anything else. I don't know if this is a Wendigo, a skinwalker, or something else entirely, but I have never felt such dread and fear as I do when I hear or smell it out there. Please, someone, anyone, if you know what this is, please tell me I'm not losing my mind, and if it's real, how do I make it go away? This thing is causing me so much stress. Thank you for reading. If you are bold enough, then I challenge you to watch my videos in my playlist that definitely make you cry and horrific at end be ready. Watch at your own risk.